Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker, Ms. Sumit Sandhu. Sumit's journey through various phases of work from jobs to career is truly inspiring. Currently, Sumit's focus lies in empowering driven organizations to take significant strides in their growth journey. She specializes in building fundraising capacity and fostering good governance for NGOs while also offering expertise in leadership development and organization building for business. Beyond her professional endeavors, Sumit is deeply committed to mentoring women led nonprofits and businesses, as well as upcoming female leaders. She on a mission to address the gender disparity decision making spaces such as boardrooms, power corridors, and parliaments. Over the 22 years, Sumit's career trajectory has been unconventional yet impactful. She has ventured into a corporate sector, entrepreneurship, and now the social sector, always driven by desire to find meaning, push boundaries, and make tough choices. Sumit's achievements are numerous and impressive, from being recognized as a first woman in sales in the customer durable industry to pioneering establishing point ball in India. She has left an incredible mark. Her entrepreneurial journey has generated her prestigious awards, including being facilitated by IIM Rohtak and receiving national media coverage. In her pursuit of meaningful work, Sumit has delved into causes close to her heart, such as gender equality, children's and human rights, mental health, and climate crisis. She is consistently learning and unlearning driven inspiration from diverse, diverse sources, including music, arts and culture, grassroots initiatives, and children's. Please join me welcoming Sumit Sandhu, a hope, a catalyst for positive change. Let's engage in insightful conversation that inspire action and driven meaningful impact. And also welcome to Ms. Akriti Srivastava, founder at Bahula Naturals, entrepreneur with sensitivity, technology and innovation at core, working with thousands of rural community members on Trackable. We welcome you both now.
Thank you, Namrata. Thank you for that long and warm introduction. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Namrata. Hello, Smeet.
Hi.
So, Sumit, I would like to start this conversation with both my appreciation for paintball and many thanks to you for bringing it. And second, with the business idea. Now, I work with the rural agro-pastoral communities in the desert regions. Towards the horizontal deserts of Thar from the cold deserts in Ladakh. We, in the process, work on bringing forth good food. And one of the food products that we have in our portfolio is camel milk cheeses, artisanal camel milk cheese, right? So I have been ruminating on this idea with my friends and colleagues for a very long time that what if we develop an arcade with nerve guns or paintball guns that shoot out camel milk balls, cheese balls. So how do you suggest we move ahead with this innovative, or as I like to believe that it's the most innovative idea I have had? How would you like us to proceed with that?
Wow. First of all, let me congratulate you on thinking this, this and making like an interesting medley of paintball and camel milk, etc. So that's like very interesting way of thinking. And secondly, I want to actually, Akriti, I was reading your profile and we were just talking about this just before the session started, that I think the kind of work that you're doing with the farmers and the grazers, etc. It's just brilliant because it's in the direction of regenerative economies and circular economies. So thank you for taking this up. And to answer your question, I think it's a wacky idea, okay? And if I give it a marketing lens, okay, a lot of wackiness, which is, get eyeballs stopped and get, maybe to highlight, that this is something that is actually possible. It is an eyeball generator. It is a show starter. It's a provocative idea. So, and I think if you're able to probably do it, if you want to maybe do an event around it, get people and actually give them, something to play around with. And it's also a very fun idea, right? And it could be a very interesting way to actually market and maybe bring people to where the food is actually being grown, for them to get connected with the soil, the earth, the camels, so it's in that ecosystem that you actually bring people. And I think, there's so many moments about farm to fork, and about, again, going back to, there are children, there are campaigns for summer programs right now, where children are being encouraged to go and see how actually food is grown. In fact, the joke is like, the American children, and this is no offense to the American economy or their ecosystem, but yeah, a lot of American children grow up thinking that food is a part of the grocery store, right? But for the children to actually go and understand how it is grown and what happens behind, so the farmers and the whole ecology behind it. And then to respect that and to honor that. So I would actually, probably, if you ask me from an ethos perspective, from where I am, though I'm, yes, the founder of paintball in India, and, I brought this sport, but, I think I've also evolved over the years. I now look back and say that it is a gun. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I don't talk about guns with her because guns have an association, right? They have an association with violence. They have a. So I'll probably say that look at something which is a little more compassionate, which is not maybe because holding a gun is holding a gun.
Yeah.
Whether it shoots cheese balls or paintballs or, and I'm saying this, me, the founder of paintball in India, is saying this because I'm saying that I've evolved. I did that at that time. It was 2005. It was at a time when, the ecosystem of being an entrepreneur was very, very different. I'm talking about pre-Facebook era. And I'm talking about, that's when I became an entrepreneur, and in fact, the call center economy and, corporate training and wellness, etc. All of this was like just opening up, and so it was a great time for the business, and it was something which worked at that time. But I think after that there have been wars, and there have been climate crises, and there have been poly crises in the world, etc. So if someone was to come and tell me a paintball business, I would say no, right? Because we have to move with the times, right?
So true.
I would call it that, yeah. And I would say, again, ethos of, how do we bring the ecosystem together? So maybe do something with the flowers or something, you could, I'm sure you have an innovative way of thinking, and you could come up.
The cheese balls it is, that's a
Yes.
go ahead. Thank you for that. And let's replace the guns with something that we want to spread more.
Yeah. Also, there are ancient, the ancient culture, has so much to offer, which we've kind of forgotten, So I will actually say go back there and see what were the kind of sports which were, which were more prevalent at that time, and then that actually gives you a connection with, with the soil, with the economy, with the ecosystem, how it was earlier, etc., etc. Because sports and games have been a part of the way we live forever, right? Like, so yeah, let's stay away from that.
That's definitely one area to innovate more on. So, see, I would like to first, today we're speaking about this topic that is future proofing. To examine strategies for startups to adapt and thrive amidst rapid technological advancements and evolving landscapes. In this thought process, the first thing that pops up in my head, that for entrepreneurs working on the ground, and I would come a lot from the context that I stem from, is we work in regions directly at the ground level, where the impact is immediately created and you get the response immediately, right? If it is good, bad, ugly, in what direction, how to scale, if it is working or not. Uh, and an entrepreneur in general is juggling with a whirlwind of decision making, challenges, opportunities, and so much ongoing. What I realized personally is that by the time I reach the information, I reach the technological upgradation information, the trend has already evolved.
Moment is fast, yes.
It's so fast. So in that light, how would you suggest that startups identify and capitalize on these emerging technological trends or trends of any innovative trends to maintain their competitiveness?
Hmm. Okay. So, Akriti, like you very rightly said, I mean, it's like, you blinked and that the bus has sailed, right? So I think in today's ecosystem, the way one is, and like I was saying, I mean, I actually just took this example that, being present with what's happening outside, right? So, and moving with that, and I would actually say, as an ace entrepreneur, you're not just moving with those times, but you actually have to move ahead, right? So, and sometimes are we waiting for competition or the industry to show us the trends, or can we be ahead of that and actually think about what could happen next, right? So being predictive. Now this is what's happening, and this is what is the current scenario looking like, and this could be a next move, right? So maybe tracking other economies, globally what's happening in my industry, what are the trends, being very, very present and being very open. So forums like these, or whether it is the internet and networking, attending workshops. So all of this is, and yes, it is a very difficult challenging time for an entrepreneur, but it's also equally exciting, right? Because look at the opportunities. I mean, today you can sit and do Coursera or any of these. You can do a Stanford. You don't have to go to Harvard. You don't have to, right? You can just do all that. And I mean, during, like, if I've said my times, it was very different. The scenario was very different. In fact, I was just telling, Youth Collab and the UNDP folks. I mean, the kind of, and I did like some capacity building workshops before this session, right? So the amount of support, that one has available, amount of funding, amount of, ecosystem support, in terms of capacity building, etc. It's like, I wish I had that. It wasn't. So the ecosystem is just much more evolved and also competitive. So, but I think it's equally, it's not like, oh, it is so challenging and I'm not getting the support. Yes, it is much more challenging. Yes, you have more advanced, rapid, technology. I mean, there's AI, there's blockchain, there's, now we have like ChatGPT 4.0, and then we have IoT. So there's just so much happening, right? But at the same time, you also have the ecosystem, which is very, very evolved. You also have consumers who are very evolved, So who are my early adopters, right? Sometimes I think consumers give us these answers. Like you said that, by the time I go to the market and being on the ground, I think for an entrepreneur himself, herself, to be actually be there. You're not waiting for someone in my team to, I'm the one sitting here taking decisions and on my chair, but actually being there, rolling up your sleeves and being there with your consumers. I think sometimes consumers have so many answers, and our consumers are so evolved, right? They are, and I mean, they are so well connected. Your farmer who's who's actually, in fact, I'm recalling. I don't know if you have the time, but I'm recalling Mr. Rajendra Singh, who is the waterman of India. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a waterman of India. He's regenerated lakes and ponds, right? And he's like this big man in Rajasthan who's now gone global, and he's been doing this brilliant, beautiful work for Mother Earth. And he spoke about how an illiterate 70-year-old gawar, if I could use that word, right? From the gown, not in a derogatory, but in a very respectable way, that someone who had never ever been to wear an union, you would not expect. But how he taught him in 4 days how to regenerate water, and it was with the sun, and it was with the, I mean, it's a beautiful story. If you ever get a chance to listen to him, attend one of his, sessions or whatever. But he was the one who taught him. So where that information and insight is coming from might be the most unexpected source for us, but where we need to. And like I go back to what I was saying into your question, that it is about being ahead. So it's not just about keeping pace, I would say, because if you have to ace it, you actually have to be ahead of. So what could happen, and being predictive, and also sometimes prototyping, experimenting, right? You could have like a little thing, or this app is there or whatever. How could I maybe just do a small experiment? How could this help me? How could I maybe? So I think these being ahead of the times experiments need to just keep going on. You need to have a innovative culture, foster that kind of culture within your team, within your, that we always need to have like these 2-3 people or 1-2 people, or you yourself prototyping what could be the future. So those are, I think, some of the
very interesting insight, which brings me to a very, you might say, a very nascent question. Going back, there are these range of expertise that one needs to garner in their entrepreneurial journey, be it strategizing, be it marketing, understanding technologies, understanding finances, conversations that could be effective. In that whole spectrum, and this where do I come from? I'll also give you the context of that. There are so many cohorts, so many conversations that I have been a part of. And I usually find that women entrepreneurs specifically, they say that, oh, finance is not my thing. Finance is something that I shy away from. That is something that somebody else in the team takes care of. I look at the other parts. Similarly, there are some who shy away from technology. So how crucial do you think, and we understand your thought on this, but just to underline how crucial understanding technology is, and what it is, what value does it hold for the entrepreneurs of today? If you could share your views on that.
And yeah, thank you for bringing the women and the gender aspect in. But I'll go gender neutral on this first, and then maybe dive into a gender lens. I think let's talk about technology first, because that's what we are focusing on for today. So I think the biggest ever mistake an entrepreneur can make today is to underestimate the pace, the scope, and the speed of the technological progress which is happening. Okay, and to be blindsided to acha haan ye analytics hai, ye data hai, kuch haan hum kar lenge, to have that kind of, I think it's the biggest mistake you can make, because I'm not being able to use that very powerful piece sitting out there, which is a technology. Because yeah, like the world's moving, and it's moving faster than we're, but having said this, I also want to equally give equal importance to this fact that it cannot be just technology alone, right? I mean, in fact the studies are like kind of proving that we've been I mean, the AIs and the machine learning, etc., right? In all the latest experiments, it's like, okay, so we're what we are feeding to the AI system and what are they learning, etc., all that's coming back very well. But common sense, right? If I drop this pencil, it is going to go down. That the machine is not, because we haven't taught it, right? So now, when to use common sense, when to use your mind, and when to use machine, right? That balance only a human intervention can actually put forward. So for you, so the role of an entrepreneur becomes even more evolved, okay, to understand when which intervention for which decision I have to look at evidence, data, whether it's cold data, warm data, I'll talk about that actually, and where I need to use my common sense and intuition, right? Because intuition is also a very important, I would say, decision-making aspect, which we cannot ignore.
Very true.
Like, you landed up being in Rajasthan because there was no data, right? You just ended up being there and you met. So there is a bit of this unexplained data-less element, in a lot of our decisions, right? Which I don't think we should ignore. So having said that, about technology, and quickly just to take maybe a bit of because we spoke about warm and cold data, and we talk about the impact of tech on the entrepreneurial ecosystem right now. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with warm data, but again, so what is technology right now giving us is a lot of data which gets generated, and how do we use it, etc., etc. But warm data is actually about understanding the interplay of different data sets amongst each other, right? So there are complexities which are involved within. So if I just pull out like one data, I mean, if I talk about water or whatever, how much it rained, how much I just pull out that data from one particular geography, and I just look at that. And I say compare, okay, this region with this region. Okay. But then if I don't look at, for example, what was the underground water level previously, right? Or I don't look at the monsoon pattern for the last 10 years, etc., etc. So data are all interrelated. So to look at, so that's what warm data plays in, as where you're actually seeing tracking data with the interplay and the interconnectedness and the intersectionalities of different data units or lenses, right? Which it is again very important to look at, because you can't just standalone look at data or say, I'm making my decision because of what. So I would in fact again put the warm data and I'll equalize it with the intuition and the human aspect, right? Now to talk about the women and the gender lens here, and I see a lot of participants, but the people haven't put on their cameras. It'll be great to see some faces actually. Yeah, just a request to all the participants, if you all can put on your cameras, it'll be great to. So yeah, in terms of just go back again to your question about
the fact that certain entrepreneurs, and this could be so finance was one of the examples that I took that women usually shy away from, but even with the male entrepreneurs today, people ignore certain aspects, ignore or not equally level it in the whole spectrum of it being technology, financing, strategy, communications, marketing. So how crucial it is to keep it all together and be able to balance it all. I understand there would be expertise of an individual on certain topics, but how can an entrepreneur balance it all?
Okay, so basically, I would say that you can't ignore any one thing, because you're not, okay. So this is, and I think it's actually the realization of the fact that if you, your own self-analysis to say that, okay, this is something that I'm not great at, or I don't naturally, I'm inclined towards, so I'm more of a product person or a program person or whatever, and this is not mine. So once you've had that realization, acknowledgement, then how you going to cover it? Right? So either do I get like an ace accountant or someone is my co-founder, is there someone in the family, someone as a friend, someone as a mentor, someone as an advisor who can actually cover this area, because you can't leave it uncovered. Right? You can look at, training yourself into something which is not your forte, which could be technology or finance, etc. But again, that's a longer route. And as an entrepreneur, I don't think you have the time and bandwidth, because again, with the rapid technological advancements and then your go-to-market speed, etc., etc. So I would say cover it, till the time that you get back to, and whether it is tech or whether it is, finance or any other area for that matter. And again, sometimes strategic collaborations, partnerships, working with sometimes, universities, organizations, research centers. I'm at the Indian School of Public Policy right now, which is again, like we have internships, so being present in an ecosystem itself is teaching you so much.
Very crucial.
So there are many of these opportunities. Actually, you have to look. You have to be open, you have to be present in the right places, right time, etc. And be very well connected. I think today, I mean, the connections like through LinkedIn, through, we have like the world at our feet, right? At our hands. So there's so much that one can do. And again, the credibility, the validation that some of these partnership collaborations can bring to you. Because you're still a startup, like people don't know Bahula right now, right? But there are more people who will know, Rajasthan University or a research center or a agro farming, some place. And so have their PhD students, research your work. You're giving them data, you're giving them. So there are so many of these collaborations that can be worked upon, which give you visibility, which give you. So there are many ways to do this, right? And to recognizing that this is something is not my ace, my forte, but how will I cover it up? Something for you to recognize. And again, talking about the women in the gender lens in this. Okay, so I mean, here again, we can actually go on go on about this a lot. But I would say, yeah, sorry.
We also come on to this in detail, discussing the gender lens in the whole entrepreneurial ecosystem. But I believe what you've given away is a very, very important thing, that we have to break out of silos and be a part of an ecosystem, a larger ecosystem, a larger network, where we can share, express, and learn and unlearn from. Which also brings me to the next part of this conversation, that in your experience, are there any specific strategies that you might recommend for startups to effectively adapt to these changing technological landscapes? I am sure there's no formula of 2 plus 2, but what could be the footsteps in that direction? If you could share your thoughts on that.
So I would say, I actually always say that, the best competition is yourself, your own self, right? So who am I going to beat? But then having your competitive landscape, understanding what my competition is doing, and then who's the best in class in this sector, right? And that could be someone sitting in Netherlands or sitting in, so that's what, again, utilizing, the internet to do research, etc. Write to people. In fact, I very now that I'm also part of the education ecosystem, higher education, and I think there is academicians, researchers. There is so much wealth sitting in this world, which entrepreneurs are not utilizing. Like sometimes I tell myself, I wish I had that. Not that someone was doing research on paintball, because it's a very unique industry that I was in. But still, I mean, now that I'm a part of the Indian School of Public Policy, then there's more work I do with researchers. So there is so much that you can work with in terms of getting associated with academicians, researchers, academic institutes. That in terms of even the technological trends, that what is happening, being connected, gives you like an ace amongst your with your competitive landscape, etc. So how do you stay ahead? What do you talk about? So I think in terms of strategies, tying up collaborations, look at unique partnerships, right? How you could again look at validations. Who could, I mean, like I gave some of these ideas about researching or use your I mean, so look at the number of PhD students who would be willing to. You can actually conduct there are ecosystems for PhD students, right? You can put in and you can actually put in a request. This is the area I work in. If someone wants to get like a deep dive into this particular thing, and they'll do the research, and you'll get. There are many ways to do that. Again, in terms of the technological bit, I mean, strategies, I would actually go back to what I was saying earlier. Networking, attending. So even if this even if you don't make it a cohort like the Youth Collab, or you have other incubators, other hubs, even if you don't get selected, you should still apply, because you get to meet a bunch of cool people. You might meet mentors, advisors. You should just apply. You should have like your standard pitch, that these are all the things, the call for applications, etc. coming, and just have your pitch deck, all of that ready, and just apply. Because again, the networks that you might make through this are something, and you also get to learn from another, like it could be someone might be doing something similar in another geography. And I would say globally, looking at what's happening in my particular industry or area of work, because there's so much again to learn from each other, which how much of these learnings we are actually leveraging or utilizing.
Uh, that's a very interesting outlook on the situation. And while you were saying this, I was constantly in my head thinking that I'll give you an example to start this question. Uh, so, as a startup founder, I believe that there are two kinds of resilience that as a founder you need to build. Whenever I talk of Bahula in my intuitive self, I always consider Bahula as this person and not a non-living object, right? So I always address it as if I'm speaking to a person or speaking about a person. And that gives me a lot of sensitivity towards what this organization's value system is going to be. What is it feeling right now? In what kind of a space is it? And in that light, there are these two kinds of resilience a startup founder has to build. One is the resilience of oneself, uh, which will fuel the organization. And second is the resilience of the organization as a whole, which includes its ideas, its value system, its people. Uh, and so, how do you suggest, and if you could share light on what steps can somebody take to build this resilience of oneself? I know this could sound a little philosophical, and I would look forward to the response on this. How do you build resilience of oneself amidst uncertainties, and at the same time of the operations or your overall business model? And of course, in the light of technological advancements, uncertainties, anxieties, and sleepless nights that come with it. So, how do you build that resilience?
Great, thank you. Very interesting question, Akriti. So I would actually, I mean, look at Bollywood to quote this, which is a lot of Hindi movie dialogue. It says, "एक दो जिस्म एक जान." Yeah, which is, and sometimes I've felt this about like my startup, which is some like a baby, and then it grows up, etc. And then of course we can have another 1 hour conversation on how you keep your entity and your identity different from your, because there are, while this is a particular perspective that is though just make done as it's I mean, for other people, sorry to translate in English, it's to say there are two entities and two bodies but one soul, right? So how this is, what is the pros and what are the cons of it? There are both sides, but yes, if your startup is not doing well, you will not yourself be in a happy mode, or in a mode that you're feeling satisfied, etc. So it's a very, because of what you've invested, time, energy, all of that, right? So that's now in terms of building resilience. So from an organizational perspective, some of the things that we are talking about, which is to creating the ecosystem, the support system, your even in terms of failures, right? So when you're taking experiment and you've innovated, let's say your keys ball idea, now you put in your effort, resources, some time, money on it, etc. And then let's say the project didn't do well, right? We didn't get too many people to experiment or whatever. So then what is the backup, and how do you manage cash flows, because you spent extra and then so in terms of cash flow management itself, right? How much extra? And then again, in terms of your funding, how you're fundraising, do you have a diversified portfolio, or is it your one or two, sets of funding that you are dependent upon? Let's say if it's too debt heavy, and then suddenly if there's a crash or your product hasn't done well, so you have this extra debt which is now there, and the interest is, and you're not able to put your, so there are many sectors, many aspects where there could be, right? So how are you fortifying? So within that space, how are you? So while that is a very important aspect in terms of building resilience on each of these, and I would also say, like from a perspective of your customers, like, do I have a particular customer segment, market segment that I'm relying on, or am I building different product lines, different customer lines, that if this particular line doesn't do well, or if, like, for example, if you have a seasonality in your business, like in your case, if there are, like now, if at all there is seasonality aspect, in terms of the climate, etc., then what will sail us through, right? So how do you, so there are many resilience, points that you will need from an organizational perspective, right? That one will have to. Coming to the personal and the individual side of it, I would actually say that that's something that I think gets more ignored because it's not as visible, right? And thank you for actually bringing it out. And I think the burnout rate in the entrepreneurial ecosystem is the highest, whether it is men, women, etc. And stress levels, and I mean, if I look at mental health and all, we know what is the, and sometimes when there are very high level finances involved, there have also been whatever suicide cases, etc., because you look at failure of the enterprise as your own personal failure and not able to handle. So, right? So I think mental wellness and building resilience as an individual, again, we can have scheduled another 1 hour conversation or a capacity building workshop on that, Namrita, a note for you to maybe think about this. But I would say budgeting time, I mean, I can give you my personal example on, so in my calendar, like, I have slotted time for self-care, self investment, again, even in terms of your own leadership and your growth, right? You're not, so how much are you putting in that? Because you also need to grow. It's not just about organization growing, but intellectual growth. And, who are you getting mentored from, right? Sometimes you're giving a lot, but where are you taking it? Where are you taking in all that, right? And then your rest time, and there are various kinds of rest. It's not just about physical rest, right? There's also emotional rest. And there is also, sometimes rest from technology and, being like, whatever, like a detox.
Yeah.
You're doing a detox from your phone, from your, so, or it might be a travel plan, it might be so your own self-care, has to be built in within your schedule. If you are ignoring that, yeah, the number of sleepless nights, you can only be able to do so much, and obviously there'll be a crash. You crash, the organization crashes. So I would say there is no other way to, or there is no thing to wait. Acha, abhi I will achieve after this product launch, I will take a week off, and it doesn't work like that. Our body doesn't work like that. Our mind doesn't work like, we all think, we are wired to think that, oh, let me just get off this project and then I'll take like a week off. I'll go and do my exercise and I'll do my, I'll eat healthy, and but it doesn't work like that. You have to figure this out for yourself, and you have to put in that. And I think having a great support system and creating that support system is equally important, because we don't invest again that much time in, who's going to take care of my food if I'm out there. Do I have someone, taking care of my food and the kind of quality of food that I'm eating? Am I eating on time, etc.? The rest, so having a good support system, family, friends, whatever, is also equally important, and you need to invest in those relationships also. Sometimes we say, oh, because I'm an entrepreneur, I don't have time to, I won't go for weddings, I won't go for, I'm the entrepreneur now, so because I have like, so we think ourselves as, so in fact, and even for women, sometimes, I mean, I would, since you're talking about gender, I would actually say, like, the time that you're menstruating, right? We think, oh, in fact, a lot of, this is one of my favorite topics actually. So, and I'm going to I want to bring that in because I see some women here, and, so the Western, influence has made us think, and especially a lot of ads, Whisper and Stay Premium, a lot of these international brands have brought in this, oh, I should be able to actually climb mountains and, do whatever, go cycling, etc. during this time. But that's not how our bodies are designed, right? If you actually look at the ancient philosophy, and that's not just about Indian culture, every culture, because menstruation is a time when a woman's system is shutting down and it is going through its own hormonal, and it is a time that you need to rest in, take your breath, go according to your own cycle. And if that is the time you're scheduling your, so, a lot of big work, travel and all of that, you're actually doing a disservice, right? You're actually reducing your capacity to work later. So building in this self-care is very, very important. I've actually started putting in, these are my menstrual days, and these are the days I put, I mean, ideally, yeah, sometimes work doesn't allow you those, liberties. But ideally, I would not want to, take on things which are very, very taxing physically.
So wellness of oneself, mindfulness of oneself will translate into the wellness and mindfulness of your business and your colleagues as well.
Always.
Eventually,
And you're the leader. You're the
being
leader.
the leader, definitely being the leader, you need to ensure that
You can't go down.
example.
Right? You're the most important person in the right. You can't go down. So you have to invest. You don't have a choice. But I at least I said put it in your calendar. It has to be calendarized because that's when it becomes important.
Prioritize it. We usually end up ignoring that space. Okay, let's do something else and I'll do it this later. But you need to prioritize it. You need to put a hard stop when it needs to be. Talking of women, um, uh, you know, uh, an issue very close to my heart in terms that I usually find myself and many of us over here in the cohort as well and otherwise. Women in business is uh, I would not say relatively a very new concept, but women in the forefront of business surely is. And being a woman in the dairy sector, where you usually do not find many ladies in any closed room, I also, sit back and revisualize that how quickly has the world adapted to people like us present in rooms where we traditionally have not. Um, for example, uh, uh, so in the dairy sector specifically, it is the women of the country who are the backbone of ensuring animal husbandry is properly taken care of, from feeding the animals to taking their milk, to giving them water, taking them out for grazing, veterinary care of the animals. Everything is done by women in this country across. And I'm talking about the length and breadth, wherever it is that you go. But you will usually find men at the helm having those conversations. And similar is the case across other spaces as well. Uh, so how in that light do you would you do you think that women entrepreneurs uh, create their 2 by 2, find their ground and not be, if I may use the word, intimidated by the fact that they might be the first one? You have so many first accolades attached to your name, right? So how has your experience been, and what roadmap would you pave for budding women entrepreneurs in the space?
Sure. Thanks for bringing this in, Akriti. So I would actually say, I would actually question our own narrative, right? How I would not even go to what's happening outside, right? How many men in the room? How many, that's externalities, right? I would say, what am I thinking? What am I saying, right? And this is not for you. This is for all of us, and all of us have done this, right? Like we say, I am in a man's world, right? And why am I calling it the man's world? Right? You started with that, right? And we
Not
all
the
that, right?
yeah.
That's now you see what, and this is not to say we are badgering ourselves. Oh, I did the wrong thing. No, that's not, because again we get into that, right? Because we are brought up, with
That's
this.
the conditioning.
Exactly. So it's not about you, right? It's not about you. It's not, we don't have to carry the burden of, oh, I said it wrong. Because that's again, and we take this very naturally because, that's also the conditioning, right? So I would say that I think the conversation and the narrative has to change here first for every woman out there, for every woman. And this is like I'm saying globally across, not just about India, because this is how, right? And then I go back to this that, we are 50%, right? It's 50-50. You talk about gender ratio, talk about female male ratio, remember? How many male to how many, right? So with all of that, it is 50-50. Otherwise, the world will not be a. So when we are carrying half the sky, we are half the sky, then why are we not getting our 50% of the sky? Why are we not there? Why are we not 50% in the boardrooms? Why are we not 50% in the parliament? We're still 33%, and that's also by design.
Yeah.
The constitution was framed. Actually, I mean, Amrit, Rajkor, and the few women who were there during the framing of the constitution that time, that actually said that, women will find their way. We don't need reservation. We don't need special. This was 77 years ago. Right? See what happened after 77 years. I wish Amrit Rajkot was alive and see, like, they actually thought it was an optimistic and it was a great way of thinking. Why do we need reservation? Right? But you have to. And now with the, you look at the change in the corporate boardrooms, like in 2013, when the one woman independent director Indian Companies Act mandated, and now you look at it, it's tripled, but it's still at 18%. The triple is 18%. It's not 50%. Right? So 50% is equal. That is going to be 132 years. Right? The gender gap is going to take 130. So my daughter's daughter probably will enjoy that. But I need to put in that work now. Right? So the minute I start saying I am in the man's world. So if you ask me, first woman, that's the best thing to do actually. Why am I getting intimidated? Actually, it's an honor. Right? Because I'm not just doing this for myself, I'm actually doing this for my community. From where I begin, it's for my mothers, for my grandmothers, for the next generations to come. So it's actually an honor. Wear it like a badge of honor that I am the first person. Yes, it will be difficult. I was talking about, one of my favorite books, which is The Road Less Traveled, right? So taking the road less traveled is always difficult. But yeah, maybe not everyone can do it, but people can try, people can. So I would say we need to, and we're all entrepreneurs here. You have decided you want to take the route, you didn't want to go back. Right? You wanted to do something which is different. You wanted to carve out. So live in that energy. And you with that intimidation and, the courage, all that will just happen. It's all here. If I enter the room thinking, oh, I am in a room full of men. See, that's where it all starts. Or I enter the room thinking, I'm the only woman here. I think we need more. So let me put myself such that they realize that how great it is to have women here. They can talk about so many more things and they can bring in so much of different energies of, how. So there's so much that we don't have to, get into that conversation right now. But I think for the, kind of be around the clock. So I think I would not get into, yes, a lot needs to happen in the men's world, in the external world, policies and all of that. But I think what we can do is to change the narrative here, is what I would like to tell women entrepreneurs.
So the change has to start from within. And which brings me to my next question and the most favorite of every entrepreneur out there. How do we attract investments? To keep up with the technological evolution, the updates, the ideas, and be able to sustain and scale. So how do you suggest what is the journey that one can take for attracting investments to support their ideas?
So yes, I think this is it's like the start and the end, right? But and again, that's the lens we look at it, right? If I have money, if I have, then it's the start and it is the end because it's for. But I would actually say that if we stop looking at it as the start and the end, right? We stop looking at it as maybe the means and the end and start putting the why first. Why did I start this business? Right? And to understand our why. Then, I can give you the straight answer of have a great pitch deck, have a very strong, compelling. First, you need to have a very strong value proposition, then you need to have a great pitch deck, then you need to have rehearsed it, then you need to have your elevator pitch. I can give you, but I'm sure you've heard that so many times. There are enough articles, there are enough, right? But how do you do that? How do you make a great pitch deck? How do you, right? It's okay. You can't go to a consultant and say, oh, make a great pitch deck for me because it's your business. You know it the best. So how do you get to those places is what probably I would like to talk about, because all of the other answers are straight answers, which all of us, I think now you're already running these businesses, right? But I think to go back to your why, and you actually put yourself in the investor shoes and say, if I had, $1 million to give or 1 crore or whatever your funding need is, if I had that money, will I invest in this business? Will you ask yourself, right? that if I had that, how am I looking at it? Is this business reliable? Is it? In fact, I'd like to talk about, I don't know if you have the time, but talk about a quick um, anecdote, which is
It's 18 hours.
Which is to say that, let's say there's a medical emergency, right? We have a medical emergency right now. Someone has gotten sick, etc., needs to be taken to the doctor, needs to be taken to the hospital. And on one hand, you have, let's say, Lewis Hamilton, who, do you know who he is? He is like a Formula One ace, legendary Formula One car racer. And he's sitting there, Lewis Hamilton is sitting there in a one-seater F1 car. One-seater, okay? And this fancy, sexy, great car, right? And on the other hand, you have one cab driver, one cabby bhaiya with a, 2012 Maruti model, but a working car. So what will you do? A medical emergency. Who you want to choose?
Yeah,
the old cabby, right? Not the sexy choice, but the reliable choice, because it's a medical emergency, right? So that's how many investors also think, right? It's great to have these amazing, beautiful, technology-led ideas, etc. But at the end of the day, they have to work, right? They have to work. You have to make it work. It has to be reliable. You have to be reliable. You have to be standing out there and ooze reliability more than style, more than English. Article English ka bhi, in fact, I was reading about, the funder, there was a pitch and the entrepreneur said, can I say it in Hindi? And he said, of course you can, make your pitch in Hindi, but why are you making the pitches in English? Now you have rural entrepreneurs, why are we making the pitches in English? And again, two Indians asking each other, kya hum apni matrbhasha mein baat kar sakte hain? We've made it so, why do we have to go follow what's happening?
Yeah.
Exactly. Right? So funder is going to go for someone who's reliable, who's, walking the talk. Why have you started this business? If you had 1 crore, will you put in your money? And I would actually say, in fact, if I look at the current ecosystem, and we have what, about 50,000, more than 50,000 startups right now in India, right? And I was reading some numbers. I think the number of unicorns is about 35, 40. Yeah, and we are the third largest startup ecosystem in the world right now, right? So, which is great. I mean, these are great numbers, but how many are failing? How many are, right? And how many are creating real value? So I would even say the unicorns and how many are really creating in terms of real value, which is about profits in the bottom lines, not just top line, right? So the stress on customer acquisition right now, which is to have your top line, so hence your valuations, etc. go. And the stress on that versus, again, I mean, even if you look at the concepts of sustainability and ESG and all of that, those are not still the milestones to measure success by, right? We're only still going by valuation. We're still going by, so we're talking about triple bottom line concepts. Right? They also need to start coming into the ecosystem scenario to say, where are we on those aspects? Like, one of the businesses that you are doing, it's not just about, creating profitability, but it's about taking everyone along, which is the ecology of that place. What you're doing in the deserts of, in the Thar desert, etc. It's not just about making money. So if you look at profitability as your only motive, which is what I started with, I said, if this is the start and end of it, okay, maybe you might become a unicorn, you might actually make your million, whatever, but will that still be a win? And what is your definition of success? And how many people, I don't know, like maybe how much of earth, how much of animals, how much destruction you would have caused in making those profits?
That's so true.
Just reminding me of something called, and then going back to the Indian way of living, and you must have seen this called Shubh Labh.
Yeah.
Right? So Labh to hai, it's written in front of shops, etc. Labh to karna hai, Labh is profit. But is it Shubh? Is it Shubh? And when I say Shubh, it means, has it served all the stakeholders? we teach stakeholder management at Indian School of Public Policy, right? Very important, stakeholder analysis, stakeholder management. Who all are my stakeholders? The cows and the camels are also my stakeholders now.
Very
The
true.
place where I've taken my office, or where, and how much of dirt am I creating, where am I putting my garbage, that is also a stakeholder, na? Right? So is my lab shubh? So once I think you start answering these questions on your own, your investment, your funders, all of these things actually fall in place because people see through these things. And one last thing quickly I want to mention is that, when we look at again funding and equity and all of that, and now, like, I mean, an entrepreneur might get, oh, I have 5% left in my company and I've put my valuations and everything is now right. And with that 5%, will you have your skin in the game? Right. It is still your business. It's not about the valuation and the funding. You started, it's your dream. And now we see, I mean, look at Byju's right now. I mean, so many examples, right? And the founders are. So this is your business, your skin in the game. I mean, Indian School of Public Policy, I'm here right now, Luis Miranda, who's our chairperson, and he has invested his money. It has to do well, no? Will you invest your money in a, right? My own business, I didn't raise equity. It was my money. It was my hard-earned salary from Whirlpool, etc., etc. I was always there. It's my money. It's my long-term commitment. I'll always be there. But right now, what's happening is we are selling all our stake. We're getting great valuations. We are not putting our own skin in the game. How will it remain my business? So I think that's whole entrepreneur. Yeah, honestly, I don't understand. I mean, for me, VC is great. I mean, I'm a fundraiser, right? We do all of this, but there has to be, a framework which is inherent to, to people who are in it. We are following as with Maggie noodles, as with, there's a model. It was working great in Western economy, and we're thinking it was working great. Look at what's happening. Look at what's happening to many other. I mean, look at Byju. We have so many examples. So how are we learning? We have to constantly evolve, learn, and again, step ahead. What we were talking about, right? You just not have to keep up pace even with technologies, but predict what could happen. So yeah, there is a wisdom line which needs to come in, and we need to start having those conversations also.
That's something for all of us to cherish with. I think I'm taking this question back with me. Is your lab shubh? And I'm going to be repeating this to everybody whenever I have the next round of financial discussions with someone. In the interest of time, Sumit, I could have another 2 hours of conversation with you. I'm loving this exchange. I'm sure everybody is getting to learn a lot from your experiences. But I would like to have 2 final questions. And then if anybody from the audiences, from the everybody who's joined us online, if you have any questions, please drop it in the comments section. I believe we'll be extending this call, if everybody is fine with it, to another 15 minutes before we conclude the discussion. So now, I mean, if you could, it would be very, challenging to sum it all together, because these are such diverse trajectories of conversations that we've had, from gender to investments to the social impact of things, to mindfulness and wellness of individuals and businesses. So how would you suggest, or if you could put forth any specific strategies that startups can employ or deploy at the ground to address the regulatory challenges while staying innovative, and especially coming from, I'm sorry, the public policy space? I am sure you have had a lot of experiences where the limited understanding or complex understanding of regulatory practices brings a lot of challenges to startups to deploy their innovations. And at the same time, once deployed, as these things are, as these advancements are so ever moving or rapidly evolving, how do you measure success? of your adaptation?
So two different questions. I'm going to take the first one first. We'll
Yeah.
come back to the second one, right? So I think in terms of the regulatory challenges, in fact, I'd like to talk about the interplay between Samaj, Sarkar, and Bazaar here. Yeah, which is one beautiful philosophy basis which we are trying to create, build ISPP. And Rohini Nilekani talks about this very beautifully. She's written a great book which a lot of you should read, because again, it's about conscious, capitalism and how we are looking at how we understand, but it's not just about, so we understand the markets, and the corporate sector as the bazaar and the government. So there has to be a interplay and equilibrium between these three, right? The civil society, the corporate sector, and the government, to have a great economy, country, governance structure, all of this, right? So that's a larger philosophy that we are talking about here. And so regulatory for whom? Okay. Government is making certain regulations for whom? For the society, for the consumers, right? Now, if the consumers are not speaking up, and are not putting out their voice, and you as an entrepreneur are actually the custodian of the consumer, custodian of the government, and you are in that marketplace who's serving. And if you don't speak up, right, then where is the regulatory going? Okay, so to have the voices of, in fact, I'll probably just talk about, we'll just take a quick example here, and I'll talk about my experience with CRY, which is Child Rights Movement, right? I was in I worked with CRY for about 5 years, and some very brilliant work which came forward was, of course, the recent one was the National Education Policy, and also before that was the right to education itself, right, when that bill was passed. So CRY was one of those organizations, along with a collective of many other large civil society organizations, right, who were doing the dharnas, who were doing, there's a right to education I'm talking about, like, I don't remember which year of it. And there were many civil society organizations which came together, right? And they were, I mean, India Gate, because I heard all these stories from my colleagues in CRY, and that, they would be present. And of course, we've seen so many other social, movements which have kind of caused, and the farmers movement, closer back of what happened in Delhi, etc. So for people to come together and then create those regulatory and, have their voice is also very, very important, because we cannot be only the consumer of what is the regulatory environment right now. I recently had an opportunity to listen to Shivnath Thukral, yeah, who's the public policy director at Meta, Facebook,
Okay.
WhatsApp, yeah. And him being, at the, I would say, at a very hot, technology, and that there's like a hotbed of, where all your, and now what's happening with WhatsApp and the TikTok, and yeah, and what they've been asked to do, etc. What's happening in the US, and right. So again, the government and the markets, and what the consumer is saying. He's also carrying forward what the consumer is saying, right? So he was actually asked to be present in. I don't remember if it was the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, okay? But he was made to answer, he had to sit there and answer like questions of many parliamentarians, and when some of these policies were being framed about risk, adaptability, consumer privacy, data privacy, all of that, right? And he was at the forefront of it. So my summation to all of you, we can talk about strategies, etc., etc. But again, I would say you need to have your skin in the game. Again, regulatory challenges, and so how do you become a voice of? So now it's daily sector being spoken about, and again, interestingly, I mean, civic is. Yeah, there are so many organizations in the social space who are opening up. So every time a bill is proposed, you as a citizen have a right to comment on it.
Yeah.
Right? As a citizen, you're an entrepreneur, you're even like a more evolved citizen, because you have a particular, you have your invested stakes in that particular domain, right? Your sector, whatever that is. And so there are these formats available with the government because we're a democracy, remember. But how much do we know about it? How much? So there is an organization called Civic, I think, in they have started this forum where they will put out all the bills which are being discussed, which are, there's PRS, which is PRS Legislative Research Organization, which also does commenting on, so they give opinions and directions, right, and suggestions on what could be in the bill and what could be in the policy framework, right? So a lot of these things happen, but again, how well we are connected to the ecosystem. Right. So in terms of strategies, I would just say very quickly, I mean, understanding a very deep understanding of the regulatory landscape, within your particular sector, domain, etc. Then engaging with the regulatory authorities is also important. Who are the decision makers? And, do you have, can you shape the narrative and the discourse, with them? So at least you need to know, and even if that might be your sales tax or your local government person, this is again one of the stakeholders, one of the important stakeholders, because we can't expect someone else to be like managing this, but managing some of these relationships could also, and again, and I would also say like implementing, robust data protection processes within your organization. So when you have data, how you look at compliance? Like, do you have ethical compliance practices? Is your accountant or whenever you're doing so is it like, do you do your tax file, all of that? Is that in time? Are you saying, oh, maybe we should, save some tax here and yahan se bacha lete hain, wo kar. So if you're looking at any of these malpractices or anything, then that you're setting the culture, within your organization, which is not so an ethical compliance culture from your own self, as a leader. And that going down the line to say that this is how it needs to be done, because this is the regulatory framework, so you're actually not missing out on any.
So,
yeah.
I need to be very, very mindful and particular about. And interesting to also keep a tab on what is happening, to be apprised of the updates, and at the same time connect with professionals and be a part of that network where you can get the right advice. Perfect.
And have a voice, right? You could actually have like a consortium of, within, if it's farmers, this community, and you have a small association of, having that voice, in the social sector, I can give you so many examples, bodies, right? When you get together, I think, again, we don't understand the power of collectivism sometimes, because again, if you want to work in silos, etc., it will always be only so much. Like, there is a philosophy of Ubuntu I can talk about, which is, I am because we are, right? It's an African proverb, which is a beautiful story, but we don't have the time right now. But it says, I am because we are, right? I'm here talking right now because all of you are here listening to me. You want to listen to me, right? So I have to have that gratitude towards all of you that, oh, you giving me your patience, listening ears, to be able to talk. So I am only because you are.
6:30 on a Friday evening. Very, very grateful to everybody who's a part of the conversation. And what is success? A very, very wide umbrella term, but under the purview of technological advancement, deploying these resilient, innovative technologies and updates in your business plan, what is success, and how do you, if there are any ways to measure it, qualitative or quantitatively?
So I would actually approach this from two different lenses, Akriti, right? One is about, I think it'll be a bit of a path that you take inwards, right? And it's the mindfulness and the slow process of actually trying to understand from your own self that what does success mean to me? And that might go back to your why of starting this business, right? What was it that I started this business because of XYZ reasons? And when those XYZ reasons and that purpose is being met, you have your definition of success. So I think it's important for as an entrepreneur for you to define that, because you're an entrepreneur, not you don't have a job, you don't have a that's it. It's the road less travel that you've taken, right? And I would also want to say, I want to honor this here actually, that the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and why am I doing this? I'm doing this pro bono. They asked me to do this, and it was just like, why am I? All of you are here because you're getting some value, and the reason I'm doing it, because for me the value is about. I very strongly believe that it's the entrepreneurial ecosystem is actually the most powerful form of bringing about change, of making the world a better place.
Completely.
Whether it's efficiency, norms, climate, so many things that we can talk about. But to create that positive impact, change, whether it's from social lens, business lens, it's how businesses were being run when the industrial revolution happened. Now we have a climate revolution which is waiting to explode, and how businesses have to be run now. For us to be aware of that. Right? And all the entrepreneurs, all of you young entrepreneurs, you have to bring that change. You can't run your business the way industrial revolution business was being run, the factory mindset and the profitability and the productivity mindset, which is what, rape the soil, rape the factories, rape the animals, right? You cannot have that lens anymore. So for us to be, there's so much of power in the entrepreneurial ecosystem right now to actually create that change. Because the larger organizations, again, the structure, it's like an elephant will move, right? And you as, agile, entrepreneurial, smaller organization, you can actually just, you're the cheetahs, you're the jaguars, you're going to be leaping on this, right? So there's so much of power that you actually hold. But to go back to your question, how you are then defining success. Why did you start this business? So there is an individual definition, which is very important to actually write it down, put it on your workstation, desk, wherever, on your bathroom, when you brush your teeth. So have this so that my purpose and everything remains very clear to me. Yeah. And that actually might mean that even if my business failed, and what is the definition of business, of success and failure in your business, we'll come to that. But even if that does, I had this purpose, for why I started this. So that could, and these could be different. These could be different. They don't have to be the same. Sometimes they could be the same. But from a right-wrong perspective, I don't want to get a right-wrong lens here, but these could be actually different, right? And now coming to the definition of success for your business, I would actually, and these are my views, which could be challenged or which could be, but for me, I'll go back to my Shubh Labh, right? I will say that if you have just the profit that you're looking at, that I'll make this profit and I'll become a, the unicorn and the multi-millionaire or whatever that I've dreamt of. I have a Jaguar, I have these fancy whatever, and I'm living this great life that I've, but then what is the cost that others paid for you to get there? Right? And it'll come back, is what I can say, because that's how the universe functions. That's not me saying it. That's what the history has shown us. That's how nature functions, right? Nature comes back to get its due, right? We saw what happened in Kashmir lately. The most beautiful valley, was immersed in water, which was, parts of Venice won't be there in a few more years, I think. Right? How many places are not going to be there? My daughter's daughter are not going to see so many more UNESCO heritage sites, right? That you and me should actually go and travel to and take that time off despite running our businesses, because those places are not going to be there. We have killed those places. We, you, me, all of us, right? So we have to take advantage. We have to take ownership. We have to take. So if you ask me, definition of success, again, for your organization, if you're going to keep it only profit, might work for some time, but for how long? Okay, so sustainability, ESG, triple bottom line, okay, milestones. If you're talking about technology, the rapid advancement. So what are the, and again, it could be that, okay, these are the, if I'm a tech-led, fintech or any of the, so these are the milestones. For me, how are you defining those milestones? That would be the definition of success also, right? These are the, so whether it is in my product, that I want to bring in technology in terms of whether it is in my go-to-market approach, whether it is in my customer analysis, so you need to, and again, maybe with your investor, maybe with your mentors, maybe with your, but have the definition of success very clearly aligned as to what makes sense for you as an individual and for your business separately. And they might be the same, they might not be the same. And then talk about, okay, have I succeeded or have I failed? And again, talking about the funding scene, because if it's whether it is impact investment or just, whether it's venture capital or debt or whatever funding source that you have, an alignment on the definition of success is also very important. Right? Now, your funder can't be saying that, oh, you are successful when you will reach, like 1 lakh consumers, etc. But you are saying, no, I will be successful when I'm going to actually launch this product. Right? So alignment on the definition of success is also very important, that how are you and who's measuring you and who's.
So creating the definition for oneself, for one's businesses, and then aligning it with the larger goals and the larger set of priorities that you have. Beautiful. That's the word that I have in my head right now, Sumit. It's been such an enlightening and a beautiful, soulful conversation. I still have a lot many more questions, but again, I am looking at the team over here and wondering if we should take it elsewhere. So let's do that. And if you
anything, if we have like maybe 2-3 minutes more, I know we've crossed the timelines, but Richa's been here. There are other people. If they have any quick questions, if you can answer them right now, and even to maybe Akriti or to me, or you can connect with us later.
Sure, ma'am. Sure. You can take 2 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Participants, if you have any questions, any queries, any dilemmas that might not be specifically related to Youth Co Lab, but something in your journeys that you want to talk about, share, please, the stage is all yours.
Almost all of the things are covered in this session, like you guys have discussed all. But like for me, in the journey of this entrepreneurship and being a social entrepreneurial venture, so here the profitability and serving, these both are totally different things for the society and for the business separately. So like how to like figure out if we are creating some kind of value or not, like if I'm able to explain the question. Yeah.
So, so Richa, your question has the answer, right? So I think you're also answering the question yourself and hence getting lost in it, if I may, because you're saying, how do I? So you're assuming that these are two different things. Somewhere in your head again, it's the narrative that we have played. You're saying, acha, one side there is profitability, one side there is social impact, right? And then the two can't meet. And I'm questioning that. Right? I'm saying that why can't we have both? Is it difficult? Yes. Is it challenging? Yes. But is it possible?
Super, yes.
Let's not start with, and I think you have a live example sitting here in front of you. You must connect with Bahula Naturals and Akriti on a separate note and get connected and see how she's doing it. And there are millions of other businesses I know globally within India. Okay, are beautifully, not all of them are super successful right now, but they are on this path. And this is how they have defined success for them. Because they have said that my lab has to be sure. Because there's no other way. If you ask me, I mean, this is my personal belief, but yeah, for me, there is no other way. For me, you cannot not be, giving back part of the Mother Earth, the larger ecosystem, right? Take care of your stakeholders, which are all your stakeholders, not just your customers, right? So even your suppliers, even your, who's creating your, I mean, there could be, if you're in a, fishery or any of these, traditional So our children there, our women, how long are they working? How many, right? So how are we serving the people who are serving us, right? So best practices, safe practices, there are so many sides to this. How are you disposing your garbage? Are you composting? So many things that we can talk about, because it's not just about, and that I would say not just for an entrepreneur, it's just for an individual. How conscious am I? How consciously am I living this life? Right? It's like, is it the animal way of living, or am I alive? And because that's what differentiates us, right? So I would say question, so is it possible? Of course it's possible. How do I do it? That's the challenge. That's, as an entrepreneur, something. And then you look at how others are doing it. It is possible, is what I can tell you. Okay, there are numerous examples. Go out there, figure it out. You want to have another conversation, set up some time with me, I'll be more than happy to do that. And again, like I say, this is how we make the world better. You cannot rape the earth and take money home and be happy with it. You cannot. It's not going to. People have done that. They have built their antillas and all of that, right? I don't want to get into that side of the conversation on the capitalism and all that side of, but these are models which are being questioned. COVID has taught so much to us, right? We saw the burning fires of, so we've had one, but if we still don't wake up.
I also think that Sumit, the whole concept, and Richa, the whole concept of the new age entrepreneurial ecosystem has been to redefine the way we look at profits, has been to re-look at what businesses actually mean. What is venture with a purpose? And does a venture without a purpose mean anything? But the core of it remains that it is a venture that needs to sustain. So let's not trap ourselves in the jargons of it being social impact and in social or non-social impact. The fact that you are here, the fact that you are a part of this kind of a platform means that you are creating an impact of any kind. And you are questioning the ethos, questioning the basics that have been laid out previously. So let's continue to question them, but not forget that your venture needs to make sense, and your venture needs to generate wealth in terms of anything. This is not just monetary wealth, but wealth across spectrum. And
so just think about this. Okay, I'm just taking a bit of a just a direction here, but just think about it, that and I'll take Akriti's example because I know a little bit about her business. So just think like Akriti is making tons of money. Okay, she's now become this millionaire, and she's created wealth, etc. And now she's taken that wealth, and how she's made that, how she did all that was through the farmers and of Thar Desert, and through the camels and the cows and the buffaloes of that region. Okay, and now she's made all this profit, and now she's saying, "Acha, abhi now I'll go to Ladakh and now I'll start that." And she's invested all that wealth back into another region, she wants to expand, which is obviously the business has to expand, and she's not put anything back into the cycle of the Rajasthan, which was the camels and just think about it. Just that's thought. She got all this benefit at the cost of other stakeholders, including those farmers, and she's not willing to share. Right? I mean, does this feel like rape? She snatched something which was actually theirs. Now they didn't know technology. वो आकृति जैसे इतने पढ़े लिखे नहीं थे. They didn't know what to, right? So, but they are a very important part of this whole ecosystem, right? She couldn't have done it without them, without their support, and they trusted them. So, how does that feel? Just forget social impact and forget all this. Just go to your heart and just think. How does it? And you could be that farmer. You could be that camel. Whose cheese balls she's marketing in maybe UK now, and she now has a global business. And just think, don't they deserve like 1% or some part of that pie, because they've also worked hard. Yeah. So just think, I'm just saying, we make it like so profit, and it's very simple. It's very simple actually.
It
Right?
cannot be
You
a
do this in your
singular thing.
families, na? You do this, someone worked hard. So father is working very hard, but mother also contributed, bachas contributed. Right? It's the whole ecosystem who made the father successful, na? Right? So it's a very simple thing. You have to share. You have to give it back. She cannot take it all and go and invest it in this. She cannot. It's against the principles, ethos of your own being. You have to have Shubh in your lab. Like for me, there's no other way to do it. So, but this is a mindset you have to have, right? It's a belief system, because we have grown up with competitiveness. Like even in our school, college, our education has taught us, right, that you win, I lose, you win, right? It was never we win. But there are co-winning models. There are models like that where everyone wins. Not at the same level, not at the same time, maybe, but we can. It's possible. And it's not your fault that you're thinking like this. This is what our education system, and we can't have another conversation about our education system right now because Namrata's going to just throw us out. Yeah. But yes, it's for us to unlearn and learn. I have written the name of a gentleman called Graham Boyd. Okay, and there are many more, thinkers, free thinkers, who are questioning our learning. So I would say I'm myself on this journey of unlearning, many things I learned in my B school or in my own business practices, and now how do I unlearn them and put the new principles of a regenerative and a circular economy where all of this is possible.
That's a brilliant thought, and completely agreed that it cannot be a single person's journey. It is not. So you have to walk the path with everybody, being sensitive towards the needs and the wants and the aspirations of every stakeholder in the game. And I think looking at the clock now, if anybody has any other question,
Yeah, can I ask one?
yes. We'll keep it short and crisp.
Okay.
Yes.
Actually, the main concept actually discussed is something which encircled the Shubh Lab, the concept. The market, the entire market itself, when it's running through cut-bite competition, where there is no relevance of what we term as Shubh Lab, how can one alone survive in such a scenario where we alone are left out and all others are not putting any thought in that direction? How is it possible to win over in such a scenario?
Great, brilliant question, Johnny, right? Johnny Verghese, right? Did I get your name right?
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing this in, Johnny. How do I do Shubh Labh when all my competitors are, only doing Labh, right? And they don't care about Shubh. And why should I be the fool actually to do this, right? So I would again go back to, if you look at all your stakeholders, right? And your competition is also one of your stakeholders actually. And you have to again look at the impact what you're doing it will have on your competition. Okay, but also consumers are your stakeholders, right? Your suppliers are your stakeholders. So yes, I agree. There might be short-term, maybe I won't call them failures, but I will say maybe dips that you might have to face when you take a path like that. Okay, but again, then the question is that what is your measure of success? Are you here for the short-term gain? You got your evaluation, you got your funding, and you got an exit, which is the problem I have with the current ecosystem in the entrepreneurial, the entire the world that we've created right now. This short-term, I got my exit. Right? Actually, it's easier to exit marriages these days. Or maybe I don't know if I wonder which one is easier to. But if you have this very short-term approach, then your long-term, and then maybe your strategy of just having a labh, and that is. But if you're here, and then what was the why of getting into the business? You know, what was your definition of success? Why did you get into this business in the first place? If it was just this, okay, I have to make so much money, I got my money in, and now I'm out of it, and it's a short-term orientation, maybe that's the path for you then. You've achieved your objective. But yeah, I mean, there are other things to it. How much, you know, what was the cost others paid for you to do this? And those are maybe larger life philosophical things you don't want to get into right now, which is fair enough. But however, but I would again say that life is circular, things come back, right? There is karmic law and all of that. But let's not go there. But to answer come back to your question, the other stakeholders, which is your consumers and your suppliers and your, you know, your all your other employees, etc., they will recognize the approach that you are having, right? When you're taking all of them along. Yeah, when you do these things, you also talk about it. You know, you have to inform your consumers that my product is so much more expensive because this is the path I'm taking. I mean, look at organic food and all. Of course, we have this whole parallel of organic food economy, which is like says organic, but we don't know what if it is organic, etc. Right? But but if you're able to explain that the actual cost of the real without pesticide, without, you know, because the cost of production is actually higher because the hectare your per produce per hectare is not so, hence the cost is so much. And then if you put the fertilizer, put your pesticides, etc., so there are consumers who are understanding some of it, right? Not it's 100%, but there are consumers, there are businesses which are doing well, which are flourishing, and there is a huge now, you know, consumer new market, new segment, which is of aware consumers. Right? There are people, I mean, there was this lady who is doing candles, etc., from soy, you know, who's not here right now. And she's again, in terms of a regenerative or a non-toxic, you know, option of wax candles. So there are consumers who are open, like, I don't burn wax candles in my home because the fumes and these are toxic fumes. I have a, you know, 5-year-old, and even for my own health, right? So there are aware consumers. So they will guide you. Right? They will recognize the value, but you have to stick at it. You have to stick. It is a tougher part. It is a tougher part. But in the long term, does it pay? So look at the data. Look at companies. You know, again, I can tell you about a beautiful book, which is, I think, a absolute ever classic, is Built to Last. John Collins and Collins and Porras. Built to last. Companies which have been built to last. Right? It's an MBA classic. You must read that book. And now it's a joke actually, how many companies that Collins and Porras thought were built to last are not there anymore. Right? So what are the guiding principles basis which you are building your company? If you're building it to, next 3 years, I should get and I'm out. But if you're building it for your sons, daughters, for a legacy to come into the history books, you've got your answer there then. Make sense? John,
Thank you. Yeah, yes.
That's been a great insight. That's something all of us have been very keenly listening to, all your thoughts and ideas and inspiration, Sumit. Thank you. Thank you so much. What a trajectory of conversations, from choosing sensitivity over violence, replacing Nerf guns in the cheese balls, to being Labh, that is Shubh. How one can make an inward journey towards success and redefining success for at the individual level, at the collective level, the power of collectives. Oh my God, so many takeaways. I have pages filled with things that I want to reminisce and look back later whenever I want to relook at this conversation. So thank you so much, Sumit. Thank you, Youth Collab, for giving us all an opportunity to connect, to listen to you, and learning so much from these almost 2 hours. And thank you all the participants who've been here, keenly addressing and listening to our questions, conversations. And I will leave this conversation very fulfilled and very satisfied and with a smile on my face. So thank you, everybody. Sumit, if you have any last comments, we'll take that, and then we'll bid adieu to everybody. And thanks, Namrata, of course, for organizing and so patiently being a part of this. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kriti. I think you've been a wonderful, wonderful moderator. I mean, you were able to evoke, these very diverse set of, I don't know if we stuck to the brief of the, technology platform, but
We are entrepreneurs, it's allowed for us.
yes. But yeah, I mean, I think in terms of, bringing in these so many different diverse aspects of actually, because these are, and you can't just, if I were to go back to say that, it's not just technology, right? It has to be, and again, technology being looked at through so many different lenses, including gender. So thank you for bringing, all these different aspects into this conversation, which I also very, very thoroughly enjoyed. I think a mark here is that we started with the number of participants we started with is what we're ending with. So that itself is, and it's been almost 2 hours that we've been at it. So yes, thank you, folks. I mean, lovely audience, and being able to, and I could also sense the energies that people are actually absorbing and, thinking. And maybe I did, if I was able to put certain questions, which you will probably go home and think about. And I think that's my measure of success. So I've been able to do that part. So thank you for allowing me this opportunity, and for tolerating me some of the radical and, some of these beliefs that I have questioned. Some of these are kind of, rattling and all of that. But I think sometimes we need that. That's
Thank you.
how we go forward on the road less traveled. That's how we become, more resilient, more stronger, and sticking to our paths, which is a difficult path. Being an entrepreneur is one of the, in fact, I read this, if you want to commit suicide, you want to be, if you really just, if you really want to do the most difficult thing on the earth is choose entrepreneurship. So yes, you guys have chosen that, and we're all comrades in arms for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
so
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
so much, ma'am, for insightful discussion. And thank you so much, Akriti, for being a moderator for NID session. Thank you so much for everyone for joining this session. Thank you so much.
Bye.